Trust. Data Topics.
Welcome to the
DataTopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to DataTopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week. From Stargate competition to birdies, anything goes. Check us out on YouTube, your favorite podcast player. Feel free to leave a comment or question. Today is the February 11th of 2025. Sheesh, skirt. My name is Murillo. I'll be hosting you today, joined by Bart.
Hi.
Hey, Bart. And behind the scenes, as always, Alex.
Hello.
Hey. How are we doing? Good weekend?
Good weekend. Quiet weekend.
Quiet weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I keep waiting for the weather to get better, but then it snowed again last night. And I was like, what? Like,
We had 2 days of sun last week.
yeah, right? But like the days are getting longer, and I expect the weather to, follow suit. And some days I'm like, maybe it is getting a bit warmer. But then yesterday there was snow, and I was like thrown off completely. But c'est la vie, right?
I think this is still your Brazilian frame of
Maybe,
reference.
right?
It doesn't apply in Belgium.
I'm still like putting my flip-flops, tank
Yeah.
top, just like getting
You're still
outside the
hopeful.
house. No, okay, that's fine.
But the hope never amounts to something.
Yes, indeed. So what do we have for this week? I see here, I think this is very fresh news. Investments in French AI ecosystem reach 85 billion as Brookfield commits to 20 billion. What is this about, Bart? This is from 2 days ago.
This 2 days ago is a TechCrunch article. Is that investments in the France AI ecosystem reach up to 85 billion with a recent commitment of Brookfield. I think it's a venture capital fund, I would say. I think it was interesting just to mention because we were discussing the other day that like we see a lot of these investments. We had a Stargate project, like this follows a bit in the search of the Stargate project, but we don't really see these amounts in Europe. But I think France is proving us wrong.
There we go.
Right?
There we go. How does it work actually? Like, can France just invest this? Does it have anything to do with the EU? Does the EU have to play a role in this, or?
Well, I don't think it's France actually. Like this is a consortium of things, and I think together they amount to 83 billion euros. I think there's 50 billion from the UAE for an AI campus. There is 10 billion from BPI France, which is France's national investment bank, going really to AI startups. There's also 3 billion from Iliad for AI data centers. So it's really like it's spread across a lot of different initiatives, and it's definitely not only just French capital that is coming in, but it is landing in the French AI ecosystem.
And also, am I correct? Because I know in France they have Mistral, which is
I think their headquarters is actually in Paris. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the biggest one in the EU, right? That they have these large models.
I think it's arguably the strongest LLM competitor coming from the EU. Yeah.
Yes. Do you think does this have anything to do with Mistral? Do you know, or?
I don't think that there was a mention of Mistral in the article, but of course, like if you have something like Mistral, it's strong for the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, indeed. But I'm sure that they are involved somehow, right? I see here I just Control F'd it. BPI France is already a shareholder in Mistral, so they have similar interests, but there's no maybe direct link there. Cool. I think is a.
Yeah, I think there is also a bit like you can debate a bit how good Mistral is in the global ecosystem, but like Mistral is definitely a competitor in Europe, and I think also there like talent attracts talent.
That is true.
That's what we see here, and apparently talent also attracts capital.
Yes, that's true. But that's good. Huh? I think it's yeah. I think also now the only thing, because we're talking about the differences in financially, and then we also have the differences in terms of regulations. I think that's still to be seen, but it's good to see that there is movement.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So, looking forward to see what's gonna come out of that, and sure you're gonna keep us posted. So, what else do we have? Still on the AI big companies, we have the Anthropic Economic Index. Interesting. What is this?
Yeah, this is an article by Anthropic. There's also a PDF, but I think you've opened the website. I think the gist of it is on the website. It's interesting to scroll through. It was released, I want to say 2 days ago, something like that. And it's an analysis of people using the free Claude and the Pro Claude versions of their chat interface, and basically an analysis. They used a tool called I think it's called Clio. CLIO, to, in a quote-unquote anonymous way, analyze in what domain you're using their tools. So are you querying something about software development, or are you querying something about, let's say, something about pharmaceuticals, whatever. And what they did here is to try to come a bit with an index to see like in which domains are these tools being used a lot, which I think is it's a very interesting analysis.
What did I see here? So computer and mathematical, 37%, arts and media, 10%, education and library. What is the educational library? Is it just like, I guess, books and stuff, or?
Well, education, I think that speaks for its own. It's an education system, and well, like within libraries.
Okay. 9%, and then we have office and administrative. Here's what this is, and then we have life, physical, and social science, 60%, and business and financial. Yeah. And I think then for the people just listening, they have top titles and top tasks for each one of those.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the interesting thing is like and I think it would probably like a bit confirm our suspicions as well. It's like the biggest amount of usage is actually computer mathematical tasks. There you see a lot of AI interaction, 37.2%. And that over 1/3 of occupations use AI for at least 25% of their tasks.
Say that again?
Over 1/3 of occupations use AI for at least 25% of their tasks.
Okay.
Like for all your tasks, 25% you're using AI in one way or another. Like not necessarily to automate, but like as a tool. And that also thinking a bit more about AI as a replacement versus enhancement. And what they analyze is that 57% of AI use is augmentation. So collaborating with humans, like making yourself more efficient.
Yes.
43% is automation, like directly performing specific tasks, but that is not necessarily replacing roles, right? But automating specific tasks. But very few jobs today. Only 4% use AI for more than 75% of their tasks.
Only 4% use more than 70% of the task. So basically, only 4% of the people are at risk for being replaced.
Well, that I think that is to be debated, right?
Yeah.
Depends a bit how much autonomy you need for the rest of that. There's also an interesting graph. If you scroll down a bit lower, it's a bit you have there on the axis the wage. No, a little bit down or up. I don't know, to be honest.
This one?
No. Yeah, this one. So you have the median wage on the x-axis and the percentage of conversations. So they basically analyze like what job do you probably have? What is the median wage linked to that job? Based on the conversations you have with Claude.
Then they don't know for sure.
They don't know for sure. You could do this as a hobby, right?
Yeah, I see.
You could ask some things about Python, but you're a Brazilian masseuse. Right?
You don't know. You don't know what I do in my spare time, Bart.
An interesting thing here maybe also is that that mid to high wage occupations show the highest AI usage. Interesting to see.
But that's also because computer programmers, software developers.
So the ones that you would expect are also in that class, of course, like mid to high. And there you see the very technical jobs. There is also a highlight. It's somewhere that I didn't know that like this was a dedicated job. It's at the lower end of the median wage and also at the lower end of the percentage of conversations. There is
shampooers.
Hey,
break it down for me. What is that?
Well, I don't know. Like is it someone that just whole day long like is shampooing stuff?
I'm gonna refer back to Alex. I think you have a good guess. What is a shampooer?
I have no idea. I saw it and I was going to ask you.
Is it things like someone that washes people's hair, like a hairdresser or something?
But I would then
It's
think
so
it's
specific.
like a hairdresser, right? Like
Yeah.
a hairdresser
I don't
like shampoos like a fraction of the time.
Yeah, right.
But this is someone that is constantly shampooing.
And they use a bit Claude. So
And they use a bit lots, but like maybe to get to the best consistency of bubbles.
yeah, right. Or like how? Yeah. Interesting. And maybe also this is so in this analysis they had the history of questions per account. I guess. Okay.
And I'm also a bit worried about the other end of the spectrum.
Colleges.
Like obstetricians and gynecologists, they don't take a lot of a big percent of the conversation, but they do. You see some interactions there, right? Like on the very high end of the medium wage scale. Like to me, that's a bit worrisome.
Yeah, right. It's like, like, what are you asking there? You know, it's just like, what do you need?
Yeah. Like for what type of questions are they like trusting Claude, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's a bit. Yeah, curious. We need to do another poll on that. Just zoom in on that part of the graph. You know. Okay, interesting. And maybe also you mentioned in the beginning this is the free versus paid.
No, the free and the free plan and the pro plan. The
Did they
usage
make
of that?
And did they make a
included.
distinction between the two? Like, did they
I don't
say-
think so. I think what they just excluded is the enterprise plans because there's no. If I'm not mistaken, there's no data retention there.
Okay. And maybe with this,
It actually makes me wonder how they classified me in this.
yeah, I'll be like, maybe you're the gynecologist there, Bart.
Or I'm the shampooer.
Or the shampooer. No, but I think it's too low. But it's just like somewhere, you know. It's like this guy. I'm not
Anywhere between shampooer and gynecologist.
just somewhere. Just put it right in the middle there. Okay, cool. But I think there's a lot of cool graphs here, like the augmentation versus automation and all these things. Maybe makes me think of, and I know there's a lot of hype, and it almost hurts me to bring it up, but like the agents stuff. I think one of the reasons why agents are attractive because of the promise that it will be more automation, right? It will be able to do things more autonomously. And do you think that, like right now we see, I don't know, I think we said like 57% was augmentation, meaning that there's someone there that validates. I think they have a graph here that I'm showing that they break it down more between validation, task iteration, and learning. And then on the automation part, there's feedback loop or directive. And I guess feedback loop is, say, do this, and then you come back and the LM does something. It's like, okay, no, do that instead of this, or change this, change that. So that's, I guess, is the feedback loop. And then directive is just saying, go and book a meeting, and then it just kind of does it in the end and it's over. Do you think by the end of this year, this will change a lot with the hype around agents and all these things? Because I think that's a bit what people want, right? They want to automate more.
Well, they want to automate more. Yeah, I think it depends a bit like how easy can we get these tools like Claude or ChatGPT to interface with all the APIs of the tools that we use.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's a bit like you probably use like 5 to 10 different SaaS offerings every day for a variety of things.
Yeah.
And what you want to say is just, okay, I want to book a meeting with Marilo. Make sure to block my time in that other time scheduling thing that I have, and also send them an invite. And it's remote, so include something or find a physical spot for us to meet and book the meeting room, like these type of things. But it also allows a certain maturity on all of the APIs that you need to interact with, and then also a certain robustness on making sure it doesn't fuck up.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not sure if like it's there's a lot of different variables playing at the same time there. And I think we will definitely see a lot of steps towards that. Yeah. But maybe I think it will still improve majorly after this year, right? Yeah.
No, I think we're gonna continue improving indeed. And I also not sure how much, because sometimes APIs are not available as well. Right? It's not like for one reason or another, it's not easy to integrate to plug these things in. Yeah. And that's where we also saw I think we talked about like the thing that takes screenshots of your desktop and all these things to try to go around it, right? But I think it's hard to but you haven't quite answered. Do you think this will, by the end of this year, do you think this will be something that everyone will be doing? This will be the next big thing, or do you think it's more hype than anything right now?
I don't think everybody, but the early adopters definitely.
Okay. But then it was like, so, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, maybe it would take a few more years.
Yeah. But I think it depends very much on the maturity of APIs. And I think, like, if you, like, extend it, like, the question, like, what will it do to the SaaS ecosystem? I think it will heavily disrupt our SaaS ecosystem. But because why do you need an interface to all these things if it gets automated for you?
That's true.
But at the same time, like, I think a lot of the more legacy or more corporate B2B things are also safe for the coming 5 years, because it's much harder to interrupt as long as you're not 100% sure that what is done is correct and robust. And
I also, the accountability of tasks, right? Like if the LM fucks up, who's gonna answer? Right? We still, even as an organization, we still need that accountability chain. Right? So it's like,
But I think it's also like depends very much on like how far will these interfaces, like Claude, like ChatGPT, like others, like help us integrate these things, right?
Yeah, true. I think we mentioned 2 weeks ago that OpenAI released I think they call it operator or something that also kind of goes through. Indeed, to be seen. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see what can be done, because I think we can all see a bit of tasks that you wish you could automate, right? I was in London this past weekend, and it's like, okay, where you want to eat, or what's the best schedule, and you want to group things that are nearby, or maybe you want to check the weather forecast because you don't want to be outside for these days. And I think it takes a lot of work today. But I think it's like a bit the dream, right? Like if you can just say, these are the things I like, or even give, these are the things I want to see, could just come up with a schedule. Right? I think that
and even very simple things, like we're recording a podcast here. Like from the moment we publish our podcast on Buzzsprout, and you would like an automation where you say, like, okay, it's published on Buzzsprout, so take the content, listen to it, summarize it, and share that on the right social channels, right?
Indeed.
Like with a certain tone of voice or with some certain instructions. Like ideally, you just want to tell that to ChatGPT or to Claude, and you just like every time it's published, do it.
Yeah, indeed.
Like take it out of my hands.
Or even if you
have, it's not there yet, right? I mean, the technology is not like all these steps on its own you can do, but like to instantly glue that together for you, like it's not there yet.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you feel like that's the easy part because you're just gluing stuff together, but it's really not. I think it takes a lot of work. I think I'll be happy as well, even if you just like draft stuff and it just says, hey, I'm going to publish this in a week. This is the draft you have until then to edit it. And I can just go there whenever I have time, just read it, change a few things, or say this is okay, and just go for it, right? But like having it in one place, I think it would be very nice. Same thing for like we have the Python user group as well, and I think it would be nice to also share a bit about the speakers and the sessions, and gather a bit and maybe create like a simple image, just changing the person's avatar, and doing these things I think as well could be very, very valuable. We'll see. Let's see where we land at the end of this year. Maybe last thing, anything else you want to mention on this? Anything that really surprised you? Anything that you also wanted to bring here?
No. I'll leave it at that.
Cool. And then are you ready to move on to maybe the tech corner, Bart?
Let's.
Alrighty. So maybe while we're on topic on the LLMs and prompts, and let's say prompt layer. Prompt layer is building tools to put non-techies in the driver's seat of AI app development. What is this about?
So I wanted to have this discussion with you.
Oof, okay.
So maybe a disclaimer that I never tried prompt layer myself. So I'm not super knowledgeable on all the features, but I think their value proposition is a bit like they are a library / content management system for all the prompts that you use as a team / as a company, to making it easier to share these prompts with others, but also making it easier to iterate on prompts and have versioning on prompts and these type of things. I think what they focus on mainly is end users, so not machine learning engineers that build a specific prompt. But let's say use ChatGPT, that you have this library. Okay, you need to get that specific task done. Okay, use this prompt.
Okay.
And I wanted to have this discussion with you, like, what do you believe in this value proposition? Why not?
So, just having heard what you just said,
yeah.
So maybe there's more to it. I don't see a lot of value. Also, I mean, aside from the value, so I think this is something it looks like something very complicated for something very simple. Like if it's prompt management, okay, I understand that there are some things here and there.
It's prompt management, yeah.
Indeed.
That's what you could say. Yeah.
But I think it's like, to me, this feels like too much. Like I wouldn't build a product. Like it feels like something so simple. And also these things changes with news models as well. And I think I think it's better to teach people what makes a good prompt, like adding examples or adding this or adding that, and let people come up with their things and maybe share like what worked, what didn't, than to kind of have this structure. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't see myself proposing this at any place. I see myself more like doing a workshop. What is a good prompt and why, than to kind of have this prompt management system.
But that does assume that everybody's gonna take you very seriously during a workshop, and that they're gonna take these learnings and that they're gonna translate that into a good prompt.
Yeah, but for example, like, okay, imagine, okay, and I agree. Maybe there are people that don't care about this; they just want to use the stuff, right? Why wouldn't we just open a Notion page and just copy paste prompts from there? Like it's, like
if it's just a library, you can use
exactly, or like a Google Docs or something that you also have a bit of version. Like to me, it feels like a bit like what we built. Like it feels like too much.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think we're a bit maybe not deep diving into everything that they do, because I think you can also save some metadata on the performance on things, on what type of model was used, like so you can build a bit of confidence also on like within the setting that you're in, how good is this prompt. So I think it adds a bit there, but I also have a feeling like it is a big dependency, or maybe it's a lot to have like this extra separate platform for this in such a let's say quickly evolving world.
Yeah,
that's maybe my major concern, that it's still so much moving every day. Whether you need this today, that is.
We also saw a few examples in where
depends. Also, I don't. By the way, I don't know what the pricing is, etc. But
I
think that would factor in.
Skimming through the page, I think they also have like cost and how many tokens and all these things, right? So there is more to it. But I feel like if the foundation is indeed just like prompt management, because we even saw some LLMs, and I think even if you use ChatGPT for generating images, you already see that the LLM creates prompts for you as well. I think we also saw some models that can also enhance the prompts as well. So I feel like it's a bit, I don't know. The foundations I'm not very convinced, right? I mean, they can definitely prove me wrong, but I wouldn't, I'm a bit skeptical.
Okay.
Healthy skepticism, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's one of the very few actually, let's say, more mature platforms in this space.
I never heard of it. I mean, they look...
And I do think like, and that's a bit how I look at it today, it's a bit more of an educational platform more than anything else. Like, and to me, because I do think like if you say for specific tasks, these prompts perform very well, just use the prompt, that in certain domains, it might be easier just to share what you have, what you know, works well, versus like teaching everybody like what is good prompting.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess it's like, yeah. But today...
And I think maybe to make a bit of a parallel there, I'm trying to find the name as we speak. So I've talked about Bolt.new, right? Like, which is like your Gen AI driven application development thingy. And only a few days ago, like a small plugin for it was launched. And I would love if I could find the name, but I can't. Let me just give me a
While you're looking for that, I'll also say that personally, in the beginning of the whole Gen AI LLM, I wasn't as excited, if I'm being honest. But I think it's because it was a lot around prompting. And I feel like personally, so we're talking about the value proposition, but personally, it's also not something that really excites me. I think now I'm a bit more excited about LLMs and Gen AI because I think of how interact with systems and what it can do and like what it deliver. But I remember before it was like, oh, now we have prompt engineers. And to me, it felt like a bit like, man, like, and no one really knew what was the best way. No one, there was no like, it was like, you try stuff, this looks a bit better, so let's do that. And I was a bit like,
So I'll make an argument for it.
Let's do it.
Right?
Convince me.
I've been using Bolt.new quite a bit. And on the 7th of February, 4 days ago, Skippy, I think it's an alias, his username on X launched Supercharge, which is a Chrome extension for Bolt.new. And it basically like adds a few buttons to your Bolt.new interface.
Okay.
And it has like autocompletes on like I want this type of component, like this type of button or this type of dialog box, and like you just need to click the button and like it basically fills in the prompt for that specific component.
Okay.
And I do think like I very much believe that the software development space will be changed by, let's say, AI guided development. And I do think like having like a consistent set of prompts as a team or as a company allows you to, at the very least, like build something that is somewhat uniform across teams, across people. Like this is how we build components. This is how we set up end-to-end testing. Like this is like, and you just by using the same prompts for these type of things that you typically run into for every project.
Okay. So you're saying like for software development, having the same like and against the prompts, I guess would say use this framework or prioritize this over that. Almost like you.
Let's say where before you would have like this GitHub template and you say to your team, everybody that starts a new project starts from this template, and it's like a bit of a Kickstarter template. Like maybe it has some of the layout already done. Maybe it has some configuration that you find important. Maybe it has some CI/CD that you find important already done. But instead of having that, you now have like this Kickstarter prompt, or a prompt where you say, okay, now add end-to-end testing with Playwright, or a prompt that's very simple, like just add a button but in our style, or in the style for this customer. Right? And
I see what you're saying.
And I think there is some value in saying like to be able to do that, you need some consistency on how you prompt these things, because today the interface, I think that's debatable whether it's the best interface, but it's a chat interface.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say we want to make something that is more or less consistent, whether I build it or you build it, like maybe we need to use the same type of chats for the same type of tasks.
And do we need multiple prompts, or can we just get away with just the system prompt? Like if you say
I think you need multiple.
Yeah.
I think it very much depends on like where in the project you're in and what are you doing. Like I think you could use some like a Kickstarter prompt to kickstart the project, right? But for specific things you want specific thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Today, I mean, again, to be seen, right? I think this world that you're describing, where Gen AI is very much hand in hand with software development, we're not there yet. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but
okay, I want to bring something up.
Okay.
So I think there's a difference in perceived outrage between the general population and software developers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say more.
So you say something like, maybe like something around office management will be automated. And then you see in the general population a little bit of outrage, like what will this mean for people? And software developers are like, oh yeah, okay, that's logical.
That's fine.
Right? And then you see like, okay, maybe something around the creative space or photography, like will be automated because we can generate this now. So maybe people will lose their jobs. Maybe it will become harder to find a career there. General population, there's outrage, right?
Yeah.
Software development, it's logical, right? Like this is detraction, right? Until you suggest, like maybe, like part of software development will be taken over by Gen AI, and then it's what the fuck? No, this is not possible. We're not there yet. No. What I'm doing is so special.
Yeah.
No one can replace this.
Yeah.
Right? And I think today that is the case. Like today, it's not possible to just like autonomously let Gen AI do something. But I think today you can already, for yourself, achieve a bit of super agency by using all these tools.
True.
And I think the expectation 2 years from now is that you do all this, because otherwise you're not relevant.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, because we're the ones building these tools, so we just we kind of like go around it. Like
but every time like you discuss like there will be an impact on the world of the engineers, like no, we're so special now.
Yeah, we cannot do it. Who's gonna build the tool? No, I know what you're saying. I feel like, but it's also in general, like maybe the doctors and the artists will also look at it and be like, yeah, of course, it makes sense, right? Like if they can, they can do it well. I see what you're saying, and I think, and I agree that it will come at some point, right? I think, and I think it's the same as like doctors and stuff. I think you still need someone to understand a bit, to be accountable, to understand like if you need to change, if you need to look under the hood. But I think that would be definitely an impact. I mean, there has already been an impact, right? But there's more like autonomous stuff. if I were to do today what you're saying, I mean, I agree, but like if we have a bot like a ChatGPT, I would probably have different ones for different types of projects with like a different system prompt kind of thing.
I agree.
You know, but instead of managing different prompts for different things, right? Like so, because even if you have like 2 different types of applications and you have prompts that you can just use across them, I also feel like you can also mess up a bit the consistency within the application that you have, right?
Well, I guess that's why you need these type of tools, right? To say, for this type of customer, we only use this set of prompts.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Maybe.
I could see, like I'm skeptical on implementing something like that today. Like from the moment you say like AI guided software development becomes like 50% of the day-to-day stack, there might be a good value added for this.
No, I think there could be a good value. I mean, again, I'm not saying no. I'm saying I don't see it yet. Because to me, it's like, again, even if you say, okay, we need to manage prompts, to me, it's more logical to say, let's have a Notion page that we just add some prompts. You can control F it. You can even ask the Notion AI, and then just copy paste and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To me, it feels like it's a big abstraction. Like even if you say there is a need for that, it's a big abstraction for something
I see what you mean.
simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. But I will say that it's interesting. I think they're bold as well to give this a try. You know, like you said, they're the most mature in the space. So let's see. What else do we have? We have, well, maybe now moving a bit away, hopefully, from the whole Gen AI stuff.
Maybe we've won. I think we've won Gen AI stuff related thingy left.
On the tech corner or on the
food for thought corner.
food for thought corner?
Maybe we need to jump to there and then we.
Let's go. Let's do it. So we have here DeepSeek R1 70 billion versus 32 billion parameter model.
Yeah. So this was a discussion on Mastodon, which I find interesting. So I think there's a lot of rumors, and I'm not 100% sure what the truth is. But there's a lot of rumors on censorship, right? Like of DeepSeek.
Yes.
Clear. Like I think most people know that when you use the DeepSeek chat interface, like when you ask about Tiananmen Square, Tiananmen Square never happened. Right?
Yes.
I mean, that is more or less the gist of the censorship. The interesting thing is that this person says, and also in the discussion when you later, that he tried the 70 billion parameter and the 32 billion parameter model locally. And in the 70 billion parameter model, there is a censorship. Basically, it is so baked into the model. And in the 32 billion parameter model, there is no censorship. Which I found very interesting because I naively assumed that they did this at the server level. Like that was just like a layer on top of the model where they did the censorship.
Yeah, I see.
But it's really like the 70 billion model, like it's part of the training data set, like in some way or another.
Yeah.
That they included this, like, and I'm wondering, like, is it part of the standard data set or is it like a separate training phase that they went through for this? But and that also then makes you wonder, like and maybe there is some documentation on that. To be honest, I don't know. But like it makes you wonder, like, how did they go from the big model, the 70 billion parameter model, to the smaller one?
And we know that they went from the bigger to the smaller. They didn't do the opposite.
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't know. But I would assume, like, so what you have a lot with these type of models is that you have like a very good performing model, which is the large one, and then you have methods to scale that down, either through distillation, to pruning, to some extent through quantization.
Maybe also for the people hearing these things for the first time, I can also take a crack. Like quantization, basically you have numbers that are bits in the end, right? So if you have a floating point number, you have so many decimals, and you to quantize, say like this number is 0.00001, and then it says, okay, let's just pretend that it's 0.
Yeah.
And then the memory representation, because there are less decimals that you need to remember, you also save some like the computation mathematically is faster, but also the amount of memory you use, it's smaller, right? And I think this is maybe not a great example, because if you say it's almost 0, so let's just say it's 0, that's also like weight pruning, right? Like you basically cut these connections in the neural network, and just say pretend that it's not there. So maybe a better example would be 2.7722, whatever, and then you say, let's pretend that that's 2.7.
Yeah.
And there are different things, right? Like,
and you can hypothesize a bit, like for example, what you do with pruning is that you take a big model and that you run that against a testing set, and you see like which parameters are being used, and the ones that that are not being used, you prune them away.
Yeah.
So maybe in this, just hypothesize now, like maybe in this pruning phase, like this data set that they tested against didn't contain the censorship.
I see what you're saying.
Which is possible if they train to the censorship like really like at a later stage, like
I see
as a fine tuning step.
Yeah. Interesting.
And if they would not if that would not be included in the data set that they test again when pruning, like potentially the parameters that are used in censorship are different parameters and they're just stripped away in the pruning process.
True.
But it's interesting it's an interesting thought model. I think it's also interesting to see that they actually baked the censorship into the model.
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect.
Yeah, indeed. I know that there are also ways to, I have a friend that he's in research that he also mentioned there are ways you can add layers to these open models to really jailbreak them. Like really they just say everything that's there. But yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, like there's still a lot of rumors on this, and there are very few people that can actually run a 70 billion model locally. Like this person apparently did it. But yeah, interesting to see.
Indeed. One other thing that it's actually an article that you shared that it did to touch a bit on this as well. It's called S1, the $6 R1 competitor. So basically there was a paper that was released Friday. Basically, they really just try to make R1-like performance, but way, 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 way cheaper. And one of the things, and that's how it links a bit to what you're describing, if you use R1, you basically have this HTML-like tags that has the think within greater than less than, and then it finishes the reasoning part with the / think. Right. One thing that they did, so basically this is just a string, right? Like that the model will keep track of the things that has been produced, but you can actually force the model to think for longer, and that's what they did. So they replaced the / think, that's the stop thinking, with wait. And then the model, before it could actually output the answer, and also maybe one thing that they mentioned as well, in between the think tags, the model it's more casual. It's less authoritative.
Okay.
So then after the think, they become more like, this is this and this and this. And that's something you can see as well if you try out R1. But one thing that they did is to replace the end tag with a wait, to basically say the model keeps thinking about it, right? So they kind of like, as the model is producing tokens, before that token becomes the input for the next step, they kind of replace it. Okay. And that was a hack, right? That they could do to try to get the performance to improve or not. And one of the things they did now regards to the censorship, they also can start the sentence with like a / think, I know this. And they actually were able to kind of bypass a bit the censorship that the R1 model had. So for example, they asked something about the Tiananmen Square, which, I guess, the model was fine-tuned to avoid discussing events like this. But if you prepend your string with think, I know this, it would nudge the model to actually spit out everything that he knew.
Nice, yeah.
Right? So it was another way that they found out how to jailbreak these things. So I thought it was quite interesting. Another thing that they also mentioned on this article that I wanted to bring up, the data frugality, right? So basically they selected really the best examples. And like they kind of overtrain on that. Not overtrain, right? Because these models, they do require a lot of loops, a lot of epochs. But I think they took the best 1,000 examples, and they said that everything after that, it was actually didn't add the performance much.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And I think also again of like years ago, they also had the data-centric competitions, right? There was the idea that garbage in, garbage out. So there were competitions like kind of like Kaggle, that instead of having you give me your model, I will tell you exactly what the model is and how it's going to be trained, and then you give me the data set for that, right? Okay, so and then I think it kind of went out of hype or out of fashion, right? But I think this also kind of made me think about it, right? Like how more work on the actual examples actually can lead to very big performance differences, right? And they try different things. Like, for example, I mentioned the weight. They try, like, instead of saying weight, they try saying or saying alternatively, and they actually could see how the performance would change on that. So they kind of took the bet of R1 and they kind of made a whole bunch of little experiments to see how much they could push these things, right? And they actually got this S1 model here. So I thought it was pretty cool. That's kind of that I wanted to mention.
It's very like intuitive hacks, eh?
Indeed.
Like this is something that you would like very naively think about. Like instead of stop thinking, you just insert weight or
indeed,
or
Let's just see how it goes and measure it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was quite fun. And the other thing they could also do is like they could introduce the stop think token, right?
Yeah.
So if it's gonna say something that you want to censor it, you can just say if this word appears, just insert the stop
nice.
think, and then you can also censor the model that way. Very intuitive, very cool. And you knew about this S1 as well. How did this come up in your feed?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Somewhere along my feed, but there you have since R1 was released, I think there was an iteration of an R1 alike model, like with the same type of reasoning training. That was already super cheap.
Yeah,
I want to say something like €60 or dollars, and then as a response to that, this thing got published, which was $6, which is crazy, right? To get that performance, I think it's roughly 0.1 mini performance on some data sets.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe one thing that
which is good to see. Like
it's really good to see. I think it's also like how I see the engineering research and the academic research pendulum, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like on one end, you see like it swings to the research side, and then people are trying to prove that things are possible. And then it swings more to the engineering side and try to make it accessible to people, right? And I think the O1 is like that. They like say, oh, you can achieve this performance by shifting this and this, and now people are trying to make it very easy for everyone to adopt it. So I think it's cool. I think it's also the quote unquote natural way, maybe. Maybe while we're on the topic, I have here predicted outputs from OpenAI.
Oh yeah. So we have one more thing before we move
One more
away from
thing.
LLMs.
Yeah, let's just.
Predicted outputs is actually something that is not that new anymore. I want to say it's from November of last year, but something that I run into when using Gen AI for code development is that it's very slow. Right, I think most of these tools today default to Sonnet 3.5. Like if for example Bolt, it uses, I think Lovable also uses Sonnet. If you use Klein, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, CLINE, VS Code plugin, like it also like I think it suggests Claude. Sonnet 3.5. And the problem with Sonnet 3.5 is, well, the not problem is that it's very good at these things.
Yeah.
The challenge is that, like, in order to change a file, it has to rewrite the whole file. Which is one, it's slow.
Yeah.
And two, it uses a lot of tokens.
Yes.
And predicted outputs, I'm not sure how good the performance on these things is because I didn't test it. But predicted outputs is something by OpenAI. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit built on the notion that, okay, I'm going to edit this file. So what I'm going to do is, like, I know what the output is for most of these things. I only want to make concrete instructions on what needs to be changed. And the rest will remain the same.
I see. I see.
Which, if it performs well, like, and again, I haven't tested it, but I think, like, we need to go towards this for code development. Like, it's because it will be much more efficient.
Yeah, for sure. But then, because I know, like, I use Cursor. Yeah. And Cursor, they do have, like, the diffs per, code segments, I guess. So you can just say, like, use the composer, which is, like, the agent to edit files. And then they will go through the file and just say, these are the things I need to change. I'm not sure if they actually generate the whole string of the file. And then they just kind of show the diffs in the UI. But
I'm not sure how Cursor does it and which model it uses, to be honest.
And then for this, so very practically speaking, the LLM outputs like a segment saying, like, I don't know, comment top of the code, and then they show the difference. Like how, like, because in the end it's still an LLM, right? Like you still have a prompt in and a prompt out.
Yeah, but so in the prompt out, you get that's how I understand it. I think you can also see an example on positions of predicted text in response. If you go down a bit.
Down. Let's see. Here.
And the promise is basically that you get like concrete instructions on what needs to be changed on the input.
I see.
Instead of a fully rewritten input in the output.
But basically, we just say between this line and this line.
Exactly. I don't know how the exact instructions look like, but I think that is the premise. And I think if we would get there, it would make
indeed,
our lives a lot more efficient.
For sure, and cheaper as well, right? To run these things.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, also the compute power needed for that would theoretically be less, right? If you can get to a good model on this.
True. Yeah, curious to see how this goes. I mean, this is OpenAI as well, but like you said, I have a feeling that most of the programming things go to Claude, or Claude is ahead somehow on these things.
I think the consensus today is that your best bet is Sonnet 3.5.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people are doing today is using DeepSeek V3, more specifically, because it's very cheap and almost as good.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I wonder if Claude's gonna. Well, DeepSeek, I know it's an open source thing, but I wonder if Claude is also gonna. Because actually, I haven't heard from Anthropic. We haven't heard from Anthropic for a while, right?
It's actually a very old model. Well, in this space, it's a very old model. I want to say it's from April-ish 2024.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think so.
Yeah,
because like since then, OpenAI came out with the O1 models, and DeepSeek came out with their things, but I feel like Anthropic.
I think even 4.0 was released around the time first.
Yeah. Curious. I mean, surely they're not just sitting on idling their thumbs, right? Like they're cooking something. So I'm curious to see what they're gonna release. All right, now for the less AI thingies.
And actually, if we listen to like community rumors. So if you have a pro account on Cloud, you more quickly these days run into their usage limits. So there's a lot of chatter going on that they are using their compute resources for something else.
I see.
In other words, to train something new.
Indeed, because they don't have like a reasoning model at all. Even though Claude is compared with O1 and stuff, it's like
I don't think they have a reasoning model today.
They don't think they have it, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, maybe let's check some stats. Stats, macOS system monitor in your menu bar. So now we are back at the tech corner. I have a guess what this is about, but do you want to tell me what this is about, Bart?
Yeah, this is just a bit. If you want to geek out on the stats of your system, install this. All right, like this is an open source Mac package, Mac application by. Oh no, he moved away from the page. By Excelban. It popped up on Hacker News, I think last week somewhere, or the week before even. It basically in your taskbar, it installs some cool stats monitors, and it's very configurable, so you can show whatever sensor you want. It really made me think of back in the day when I was playing with OpenBox and I had all kind of sensors on my desktop. But I'm using it on my Mac 4 Mini. I'm very happy about it.
You're using this?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to use how like your CPU.
And like stupid stuff. Like I'm also sometimes like I'm doing Google Meet and the connection of someone is bad, or it's my connection. I'm not sure. Like I look at this little sensor in my taskbar and it shows my network in and out, so I can verify a little bit. Like, does it make sense, or is it me, or is it someone else?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think it's like the stuff that you normally open the activity monitor. Like
exactly,
if you have a problem,
you have like very succinct like charts and numbers like that you can add to your taskbar. Really cool.
And it just gets like a sticky note kind of thing. It just stays there.
Well, you can have it as a sticky note, but I don't actually not use it. You can really have these things in your taskbar, like above the sticky thing.
So it's really cool. Huh?
And if you click it, it opens up the sticky thing.
I see. Yeah. So it's like, for people just listening, it's on your progress bar on top, like the thin thing on top that you can kind of hover over, and they have a lot of graphics and stuff. This is cool. It's also good to see, like, I think in Jupyter Notebooks, sometimes the kernel just crashes. And it took me a while to realize that it's because it was running out of memory. Because you put in data.
Well, so these types of things,
see,
exactly.
You can
Where
save
you
a lot
would
of time.
indeed normally open up the activity monitor to see
Yeah, indeed, because
what's going on.
you crashes once and then you try again and crash again, and then it's
exactly.
then you need to open the thing and keep track of the thing. So it's it could be nice. Cool, written in Swift. I saw. Cool. Birdie, I saw you posted something this morning on our internal TechnoShare.
Birdie, snapshot testing in Gleam, the Gleam language, which I don't use. But I think the premise of snapshot testing was interesting because I never really thought about it in this context. So snapshot testing is, when people talk about this, is typically used in application development.
Mm-hmm.
So in your CI, you run your application, you go to a certain page or whatever, and you make a snapshot/screenshot from a page. And for example, you add it to the conversation in your PR and then you approve the PR.
Yes.
Right? That is typically when people talk about snapshot testing, that's or really screenshots of your application. But what Birdie actually does is it allows you to take snapshots of whatever, really a function with some inputs. And you don't need to specify the output, but what it will do is it will, at the first run of these tests, it will always error. And you basically need to approve the snapshot once. So let's say make it very simple. I have my +1 add function. I insert 1. It will make a snapshot of what happens. Well, 2 will come out, right? But it will fail the first time, and you will have to say, okay, 2 is correct.
Yeah.
So it knows. And then every time it is not 2 in the future, it will error. And you will know, okay, something changed here.
And then you need to approve it.
And then you need to approve it. Yeah.
So then you have a state of the snapshots.
Yeah.
And then stay somewhere, and then he just looks at that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your question on TechnoAsk or TechnoShare was if anyone had any opinions on this, and I was thinking about it as well. I think it's an interesting concept, but I'm not sure because I think so. What I would prefer in Python, at least, right? You're using PyTest in Python.
Yeah.
If you have a plugin that, because in the end you're kind of generating the certs, right? The certs are hidden.
Yeah.
And you're just creating and updating them.
True.
But I would still rather, because if you look at the code sample here, there's you don't know what the expected value is.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't know what it's at the moment of the first snapshot. Yeah.
And maybe it's just me being a bit old, but I still think I would like to see the assert there. I would still be happy if it updates it for me or if it creates the assert, but I would still like it to be there. Because I think also if you're versioning code and if you're looking at it, it's if you're reviewing APR, it's very easy to see this function. Because I also like to use functions as almost like a documentation. Whenever you add 1, the function will return 2, and then I can look at the function definition. Okay, I see what you're trying to do. Now I can look at the function. So I think it's having it written. I appreciate that. I think I also see the point. If you refactor some function, I have seen PyTest that the errors come up, and I'm okay, I'll just update this because I know I changed this and I know this will influence that, and it's fine. So I do think it's useful, but I would rather if the plugin would update the search statements for me than not knowing what the search statements are.
Yeah. And and what you mean is you don't know what the output is.
Exactly, just reading the code.
Yeah. When you read through the code, you want to see what the output.
Exactly.
But I think that makes. But I think to take the other extreme, because it's a bit where we started the discussion. With a screenshot, is logical, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to describe.
Indeed.
Right. Even there you can make a search, right? But it's hard to describe.
If you have a Streamlit application and you want to test stuff, and it's when the person even saying click, I looked into it, you have to simulate clicks in the UI, and then you have to wait a bit, and you have to this, I also feel having it written is not going to make it more intuitive to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and to be very honest, I also have a hard time because we are talking about deterministic things, adding 1 to something, right?
Yeah.
Which is easy. You're not going to use this approach.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah.
We have the other extreme where it's a screenshot. Let's be honest, you can also debate the usefulness of that, but let's not go into that. There's a lot of debate on that as well. But it's a bit more for the moment it's very deterministic versus it's less tangible. And there is somewhere a threshold that you pass where this becomes relevant. But I also have, to be honest, very hard time coming up with concrete use cases.
But I think maybe, but I see. Well, I completely agree with you. But maybe it's also if you're building a lot of front end applications and stuff, and I don't know, maybe you find this more useful. I'm not sure. I feel like if you're closer to the snapshots,
but you can also let's say random stuff here, huh? But reinforcement learning, you're trying to learn an agent to teach an agent to play Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very hard to define, like to assert it now knows Doom.
True.
But at the same time, it's also hard to approve on a snapshot for that. Right, like that's why I'm saying, like I see that there are cases where it's hard to define, like in a deterministic way, what is a good output. But I'm not sure whether a snapshot solves that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I think from the reinforcement learning is interesting, but I think there's like different complexities, right? One is like you're interacting with an environment, and how do you make assertions about the environment? And I think maybe that's also what the snapshot of the desktop of a UI is also a bit like you can think of that a bit of as an environment, right? And for you to, when you click something, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the back, and to really write assertions for everything is not going to be clean, it's not going to be simple. I think reinforcement learning, there's also the probabilistic part of it, right? That, in the end, it's like machine learning, all these things, so it's a bit hard to make assertions because it's probabilistic. But I think maybe maybe whenever you have something that is too, like it's almost like an environment, is like broad, maybe the snapshot testing comes in very handy.
Yeah.
Like if you're interacting with the system, instead of having to make assertions about all these things, it's just like, okay, this happens, this is the state after you interact with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think
it's hard to define.
It's hard, huh? It's like I feel like we're very much on hypothesizing here, but I think it's an interesting concept nonetheless. Pum. What else we have here? Beware. It's a cute logo.
Yeah, Beware. So this is, just want to do a shout out to Beware here.
Right, shout out.
Write once, deploy everywhere. So this is for Python developers that basically want to deploy stuff cross-platform. Like we're in 2025, Python ecosystem. Like it's very hard to be a Python developer and deploy on all devices. I think the premise of Beware is that you write once and you can deploy to your iPhone, you can deploy to an Android, you can deploy to web.
This is for UI applications? Or
I think there is the big chunk. I don't think necessarily, but I think that is a big chunk.
Okay.
I'm always, so you see this popping up a lot of times over the last, I've seen this a lot in the last 20 years. I'm always like I've not seen this in Python really, like this is the standard for these type of things.
Yeah.
Like it keeps moving. I hope for the Beware project that they get there. But what I'm always like super impressed is like the effort to get these type of project to a level where you can actually deploy to multiple times. Like the effort that is needed for these things is so immense. Like it's hard to, like it's mind-boggling. Like the what the time that you need to put in this to get to even like an alpha version that somehow works.
Yeah, it feels like you're. I mean, yeah, I think you really need to love Python. Like you really love it and you want to see it everywhere because.
Yeah, I think it's impressive. That is, but and let's be honest, I don't think it's impossible. I think
no, it's not impossible.
If we take 10 years ago, no one thought that Flutter would be as huge as it is today.
True,
but it is.
True. But yeah, but it's an endeavor, right?
It's well, that's why I wanted to shout. I think that it's a crazy big endeavor. It's also good that we explore the boundaries of Python and these things.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of value. Even if this doesn't succeed, there's a lot of value that can come from trying these things, right? It looks like a nice. I mean, I like the. Curious to try it out. You haven't tried it out yet.
No.
Yeah. Also, this. And do you know how they do it? By the way, do they do they use WebAssembly stuff? Did they go to the C level?
It, to be honest.
Okay. One thing came across this a while ago. Pi Oxidizer. This is a bit of a similar idea. It's a utility library for producing binaries that embed Python. So yeah, I think the idea was indeed you have Python, you create a binary for it, and then you can run in different architectures. So maybe not exactly the same scope.
Well, I think one of the sub-projects in Beware is actually also this, like to run Python stuff standalone.
Yeah, indeed. Because indeed today, even if you have a CLI tool that's written in Python, the way that it works today is like you have to have a virtual environment that installs dependencies, and you have all these things. So it's a bit like people work around that as well. This is not maintained, I think. But it was also, they try to do this with Rust. So with the Rust things, because it's more binary focus, right? But I think if you go here on the issues, project status. So I think it's not maintained now, sadly. But I think there are other ways you could, well, the binary one, right? So Python is most popular C Python. So I guess from the C, maybe you can do some stuff with that. But I also had a talk on FOSDEM. FOSDEM happened like 2 weeks ago. And one was about using WebAssembly to replace containers.
You listened to it or you had a talk?
I listened.
Okay.
It looked cool. So the idea is like, WebAssembly, Python now compiles to WebAssembly. WebAssembly is the stuff that runs in your browser, but like it's just like another target, right? And then they were saying like instead of having the Docker thing, which is more bloated and all these things, you could compile things to WebAssembly and you can distribute them. I don't have a lot of experience with WebAssembly, if I'm being honest, but it is something that I'm very curious about. It looks very interesting. I think the name was Boxer. And what he was also mentioning is that the WebAssembly stuff, that yes, it's this one. The WebAssembly stuff, it's much lighter than Docker containers. So that's also like it was a bit his thing. So it was so the idea with this project. So that this is the guy that wrote the project, by the way. The idea is that you can have the same interface as a Docker file, but then you just use Boxer, which is the CLI tool that he's creating.
That basically builds a WASM.
Exactly, but like it's from the Docker file, so you don't have to learn new syntax.
Oh yeah. Okay,
but instead of creating like from this Docker file, copy this, copy that, and then in the end you have a WebAssembly thing. So it was cool, but still need to learn up on it. What else? Maybe last topic, Bart?
Yes.
You know Astro, right?
Yeah, the
same people
organization behind.
Yes, behind UV. Roof. Anyways. So Roof is a linter written in Rust. UV is a Python package manager / other things.
And you're its fanboy, right?
I guess you could. I will accept that, even though I don't fully agree. I am a user of UV, of Roof.
Fanboy.
They also have a replacement of black, so they have a formatter in Roof now. And maybe the next thing that you kind of like, okay, MyPy, right? We have Pyrite. They're all written in Python. These are some things that actually take longer. Like linting, you could say, I don't wait a lot for my linting, and I use in pre-commits anyways. But actually, the static type checker, it is something that I see a use case for speed. And I was waiting to see when Astra was going to do something about it. And apparently, there was a tweet or an X that the creator of, the person that runs Astro, basically, he stated that Astro, they are building a new static type checker from scratch in Rust. Ambitious project from a technical perspective, about 100 PRs deep. This is from January 29th, so a bit old, let's say. But it is something that
interesting
will come up in the Python, And I think I'm also excited in a way because Astro is not like they employ people, right? So I'm expecting them to be able to move fast with these things.
Yeah, and if we skepticism aside, there's a lot of skepticism. I think there have been a lot of community discussions about they take a lot of the learnings that there are, they just re-implement them in a commercial company. But let's be honest, what they did so far with UV and with Roof, it just works.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, a lot of people move there. Like it just does things out of the box very well with minimal configuration. I also move there for most of the things that I do.
Femboy.
And I think, but the whole premise of it's very fast. Like, to be honest, it was not a major thing with things like Rough, right? Or even with things with UV, unless you have a very complex project. But for static type checker, like speed becomes a thing because MyPy, we all know, is super slow. Like and I think from the moment that you go from waiting, let's say 10 to 20 seconds, and the new norm becomes 1 to 5 seconds. Yeah, if it's even going to be that, it's very hard to move away from that, right? As an experience.
Indeed. So, yeah, I fully agree.
I think they will be like if it's good, a lot of the community will move there. Also because they have a very strong track record.
Exactly. I think they built their reputation well. Like, I agree with you. Even when I started using Rough, my main argument for going for Rough is because they bundle a lot of plugins from Flake8 that I didn't have to add manually, and I didn't have to discover them, so it's there. So, yeah. I'm also curious to see how they're going to do, because I do think this is the first, let's say, tool that I actually think that speed is a big issue. Curious to see what they're going to come up with. I think, hopeful, because I feel like the static type checking story in Python is always a bit, it's the one thing that is like, oof.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's cool. Alrighty, anything else you want to?
That's it for today.
I think that's it for today, indeed. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Bart.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Talk to
You
you
have taste
next time.
in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust here.
Rust.
This almost makes me happy that I didn't become a supermodel.
Cooper and Netties.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
Data topic.
Welcome to the
Welcome to the Data Topics podcast.